Adrian, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming along and talking to us about this. I know how difficult it must be for you.
I thank you for allowing me to tell my story. I think it will help me to heal within myself.
Let's go back to the beginning. When you started working at Neverland, what was it like?
It was a little bit, it was a very different kind of job. It took me about 1.5 years to even get used to it. It was very different.
When you were hired, what was the job description?
When I got hired, I was told I would be a maid.
And that entailed what?
A maid there, you would clean up the house, the main house. We had guest units that we would prepare for the guests. There was a theater. We would get the popcorn ready for that. Ice cream, just like a theater.
Did you have specific instructions on what to clean or where to go?
I followed the other girls, and they already had like their system. Sometimes they would say, well, you two are going to go to the theater. And you other two, you go to the guest units, get that ready.
So you pretty much worked as part of a cleaning team?
Yes.
And when you met Michael Jackson, what was that like?
The first time I met Michael, actually, it was the day that I got hired. And I was taken down to the main home, and I was waiting for the girls because I didn't know who they were, what they looked like, and nobody was there. And after a little while, Mr. Jackson came walking through the hall. And when he saw me, he just stared at me. But it was, I didn't know what to do because I was already told with the interview earlier not to stare at him. So with him staring at me, I felt very uncomfortable, and I kind of kept looking down.
What, when you were hired?
When I was hired,
you were told not to look at him?
Yeah, I was told, you don't stare at him. There was rules. There were a lot of rules that you had to follow. You don't stare at him. You don't ask him for an autograph. You do what he tells you to do. You don't question it. You just do it.
So it was very clear.
Very, very clear, yeah.
It was made very clear to you that you were very much hired help.
You're just a maid. That's all you are. It's a maid.
You specifically were instructed essentially not to get friendly with him.
Yeah, kind of. Just do your job, and you address him as Mr. Jackson. Mm-hmm.
He was a very wealthy man. What did he pay you?
The job I had left, I was making more money, and when I started with Mr. Jackson, it was $7.50 an hour.
$7.50 an hour?
Yes.
You made more money in your previous job?
Yes.
But you were at a hot dog stand, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
So you made more money serving dogs than working for Michael Jackson?
Yes.
But why did you take it on if the pay was going backwards?
My husband and I had bought a home, and my husband got laid off from his job at the base, and I had to help him with the house payment. And the job that I did have, I was told it was going to go into full-time, but not at that moment. It was going to be a little bit before I got pulled into full-time. And they were happy with me there. And when I took the job for Neverland, that started off at 40 hours. So I only took that job because of the hours.
And how did it get better for you?
It never really got better. It kind of turned to, let's say, the worst.
Michael Jackson must have trusted you.
Yes, he did. He told me that I was excellent. And I did tell him, maybe I'm not the person for you. And he said, no, Adrian, you're excellent. Loyalty to me means a lot. You can be with me forever. So he kept telling me that over and over.
And he allowed you to clean his bedroom?
3 months after I started working there, the girl that was cleaning his bedroom, she left suddenly. Nobody knew why. And I was told I was going to have to clean his bedroom. I didn't want to clean his bedroom. I went to the ranch manager and I told him, I don't like the way you guys handled this. It's like under the table. You didn't even ask me if I'm interested. You're just saying I have to do it. He said, well, Adrian, you're flexible. That's the way it is. Michael doesn't like change, and you got to do it. That's it.
That would have been considered the main job, wouldn't it? That would have been the number one job on the ranch, because that gives you a very personal insight into his own habits.
Yeah, maybe for some people, but for me, I didn't want that. I at that time, my son was small. I was married and I had a family to deal with, and I had seen how the other girl would sometimes be there for 2 weeks straight. If Mr. Jackson was there like 2 weeks, she had to be there. I didn't want that. I had a life and I didn't want to be controlled.
Well, why would you not be allowed to go home if you were in charge of cleaning his bedroom?
Well, you would go home after your day, but, a normal job, you get maybe 2 days off a week, but with Mr. Jackson, if he's there for 2 weeks, you're going to have to go pick up after him, wash his clothes, fix his bed, different things, prepare whatever he wants to eat.
So when you went from general cleaning to cleaning Michael's bedroom, did he have a chat to you then? Did he lay down any other ground rules?
Actually, the first thing that he told me was he was by his bed and I was opening boxes that he had in there. And he said out of the blue, Adrian, if you ever do something I don't like, they would take care of you, but it wouldn't come from me.
And what did you take that to mean?
I was shocked. I took it as a threat. It was scary. It scared me. It really scared me. Because I didn't really want to deal with him. I liked being kind of far in the distance and just doing my work. I didn't want to be up front with him.
He must have trusted you if he allowed you to clean his bedroom.
Yeah, he did trust me. And there were a lot of problems. And when I would speak to him about it, he would tell me, Adrian, if you were an angel and you had a halo and you had wings and you could fly, you'd still be mistreated here.
It's a strange thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange. In other words, deal with it.
Did you ever feel as though he was friendly? Did you ever feel as though the relationship went into some sort of friendship away from a working relationship?
I was always on guard with the threat, but I needed to work, pay my mortgage. So I tried to stay there with him and not cause any issues.
It's often said he could be a very generous man when he wanted to be. Did you find that?
There were some different sides to him. There was a kind side to him, and yet there was a dark side.
And by dark?
A side that was other than nice. Just, let's say, if he wanted something, he would draw you near him with who he was. But yet you knew you couldn't get too close. I don't know if you can understand that. He used celebrity to pull people by him.
What about the actual act of cleaning Michael Jackson's bedroom? You've cleaned other houses, other people's places in your lifetime of work. How is it different than the run-of-the-mill cleaning job?
To be honest with you, the first time I cleaned his bedroom, I didn't even know where to start. It was so... I can't even use the word. Everything was thrown all over, clothes all over. It was a big mess. And if you would look at it, you'd feel angry. Like, oh my God, how long is this going to take me to clean it up? So in my head, I had to play a game with myself. And I would go in the room and I would just start in one corner and just go from there. I wouldn't look at it as a whole big mess, because that's the only way you could do it.
He was the sort of classic rock star, was he? He just sort of dropped everything behind him and let you pick it up.
Yeah, he was like that. And he was kind of I guess you could say maybe a hoarder. He had so much stuff that there was no more room, and he kept bringing more stuff. I didn't know where to put it.
What sort of stuff?
Stuff like from overseas, just things that he liked to collect for his bedroom. Just.
How big was this bedroom?
His bedroom was very big. It was like the size of a home. It was the 2-story. So when you go into his bedroom, it was very huge. And then on one side, there was a walk-in closet and a stairwell that would go up to a loft on the top. So there was another bed up there. On the other side, there was another walk-in closet, a big jacuzzi. So it was big, a lot of wood, The floors were all wood.
Were you there when he was married to Lisa Marie?
I believe I left. I had already walked out of that job. I was there when she was coming around.
What was the first thing for you? What made you first suspect that Michael Jackson had an unhealthy interest in children?
I noticed that there were a lot of little boys. That's all that would hang around there. You wouldn't see like little girls. If a little boy had a sister, they didn't hang out with Michael. They were with their family. I started realizing, thinking, wondering when he was taking baths with them, with the boys.
Jacuzzis?
Well, he had a jacuzzi in the bathroom, and he'd take a bath in that. And when I would go in the next day, there were little boys' underwears either on the floor with Michael's, or they were in the jacuzzi. And he would leave the water in the jacuzzi. And I'm not very tall, so I used to have to get hangers, wire hangers, and hook them together and then try to release the bottom to open it up so the water would drain. But there were always little boys' underwears.
Floating in the jacuzzi?
They would be floating in the jacuzzi or outside of the jacuzzi on the floor.
So you were suspicious as soon as you saw that?
Yeah, I got suspicious. And then I would find underwears also in his bed. And I knew the little boys were there. When they would arrive, they would put their clothes in a suitcase in his room. So I know that they were sleeping there with him.
He has admitted to having kids in his bed, hasn't he? That's quite well known.
Yes.
Sleeping with children.
Yes.
But there's sleeping and there's sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the worst kind of sleeping with children.
Yes.
I mean, you were taking the sheets off the bed.
Yeah, I was.
What did you make of that?
I just took them off the bed. I did find underwears that were men's briefs in the walk-in closet, and they were. I don't like to say this. They were like crunchy, hard, with yellow stains all over them. I didn't know who they belonged to, because the little boys started wearing Michael's briefs, and they would leave their underwears inside his drawer. So I wasn't sure.
Did you ever talk to anybody about it?
You know, I signed a confidentiality agreement, and I was already conditioned and programmed, you don't question it. And we were told to stay away from the family. You're just a maid, you do your job.
But what you've described, you found that quite confronting.
Yeah, I did.
Did you go home and talk to your husband about it?
No, I kept all of that within myself.
What else did you witness?
One day, Mr. Jackson came home, and he had I guess you would call it a hot water bottle. It was red, and it had a long nozzle on it. And I had cleaned his room and rearranged things, and I had put it somewhere else. It wasn't where it usually was. And when Mr. Jackson came home, he asked me where it was at. And I thought, why would you ask for that? Because there were little boys there. And it made me concerned. But then I thought, well, don't think like that. He's your boss. So it was hard to deal with.
With the underpants, I mean, you would have to put them into cleaning, correct? You'd take them
Yes.
to laundry.
Mm-hmm.
When they came back, where would you put them?
I would wash them and just put them back in the room.
No questions asked? So you never got to a point where you could say to him, look, do you know who these are?
No. But I think that he was starting to realize that maybe I was catching on, because I got a call from him. He had my phone number. He called me on Mother's Day. It was a Sunday morning at my home. It was in 93. And when I picked up the phone, he had said, Adrian. And I said, yeah. He said, I want to ask you something. And I said, yeah, okay. And I kid you not, he asked me about 8 times, what do you know? And I said, Mr. Jackson, I don't know what you want me to tell you. What do you know, Adrian? He kept it up. He kept it up.
That was the question. What do you know?
What do you know? And I thought to myself, you already threatened me. You know, even if I thought something, do you really think I'm going to tell you so that something can really happen to me? I was starting to get really, really frightened. I was scared to tell him anything. I was terrified of him.
How did that call finish?
Just like that. What do you know? Okay, that was the end. It was a weird call.
When you talk about finding these underpants and that sort of thing, Adrian, how many times do you think this happened?
The ones that I found that were like crunchy and yellow with stains, that was one time. I would find the underwears many times, like in his bed, under the bed, but those weren't like stained or anything. I just knew that they were sleeping together. I'd find them, like I said, when they're going to take a shower or in the jacuzzi, the bath. The underwears were left on the floor.
Did you find any physical evidence of abuse, hard evidence of abuse?
No. I just saw a lot of maybe fondling, him maybe rubbing his hands and kids' hair, kissing them.
When you say fondling?
Hugging, kind of petting the kids.
Petting the kids where?
Kind of by the rear end.
And kissing them?
Kissing them on the cheek.
Inappropriately or as a father would?
I didn't think it was appropriate because they're not his children,
In seeing that, were these kids just random visitors or were they people you recognized?
They were random kids that would come there. He had a lot of boys that were there. Many were in and out.
Did you see him acting inappropriately with anybody that you recognized? There
were things that I'd seen, like with that, or him the kid sitting on his lap. There were things I saw that I didn't think was right, but we'll just let it go as that. It wasn't right.
Did you recognize any of those children?
Yes.
Can you tell me who they were?
I'd rather not say who they were. But they were visitors there that were there a lot.
You're on record. You're on public record, court record, is talking about Macaulay Culkin. Do you stand by that story?
I stand by what I said during my deposition.
Because Macaulay Culkin says it's preposterous, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He denies it to this day.
He does.
But you say it did happen.
I say I saw what I saw, and those kids were small, and I don't know, maybe they just, I don't know, maybe, I can understand, even, with Wade and Jimmy, to come up and say something about Mr. Jackson, it's terrifying. I don't think anybody wants that following them around,
Macaulay Culkin says to this day that nothing ever happened. And he's had multiple opportunities, hasn't he, including in court, to say otherwise.
Do you really think he wants to come out and say that and be known as the boy who was molested by Michael Jackson? Do you think Wade likes that? Look at how everybody turned on him. Look at Jimmy. Do you really, really think he wants to destroy the rest of his career?
Culkin goes further, doesn't he? Because the words he uses, he says it's ridiculous.
Well, he could say what he wants. I mean, he has to say something. I don't know if I was those boys, if I would want to say that happened to me. It's very hard. You say things and people don't believe you. So why say it? I understand. I understand what Macaulay feels.
You think the men, boys then, people like Macaulay Culkin, when they say nothing happened, you think they're not telling the truth?
All I'm going to say is he knows. He knows. And it's his life. If he can live with his life, more power to him. But like I said, I have spoken up. I sleep very good. I'm at peace in my heart now. And this has helped me to even vent more.
It gets very confusing, doesn't it?
It is, but we got to realize, you got to respect their choice if they don't want people to look at them. Because people look down at things like that.
But which choice do you believe? Do you believe them when they say they weren't abused, or do we now believe them when they say they were abused?
All I'm going to say is that I know who I worked for. I know what he was. And if these people don't want to come up and say what happened to them, they can carry that load with them for their life.
Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck both said Michael Jackson never touched them, was only a friend. And now, years later, they say, he molested us and did terrible things to us. And they're in a documentary saying that. At the same time, they're taking civil action against the Jackson estate. Can you see the conflict of interest in that?
I can, but you got to understand, Michael was alive. And when somebody like Michael, he was very powerful. and he was a manipulator. I mean, he had cassettes in his closet, mind manipulation. You know, I was 28 when I started working for him. These boys were young. If it was hard for me at that age, can you imagine how it was for them? He's alive and you're going to say something, and I'm sure he's threatened them. So you're going to really say, yeah, you know, that while he's alive? He was powerful. There's some things you just don't do.
Did you ever contemplate raising the alarm with the police? Tell them what you'd seen?
I ended up going to the sheriff's. We went, I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was in 95. But like I said, I signed a confidentiality, and you can't just call the police, you know, when you're thinking something's inappropriate.
But what about child services?
You can't do that over here like that. I mean, you know what? You just can't. Not at Neverland.
You couldn't have anonymously raised an alarm with medical authorities or somebody that you trusted? I
was very, very frightened to even accuse, to even say, very fearful for my life. As I said, I was threatened. I was told by Michael, and then also his bodyguards told me that if I ever came up on TV, that they could hire a hitman to take me out, slice my neck, would never find my body.
And you believed them?
Yeah, I did. I lived in fear for many, many years. And then I had another one that was from Neverland that was very close with Mr. Jackson, and he told me too. He said, you know Mr. Jackson very well. You just don't say what you know. I was very fearful. I didn't know what to do. You have to be in that position and know that these guys weren't playing around. They carried guns. They would tap them while they're talking to you. They'd say how they can just break your neck. I mean, I got chased in the home with a stun gun. It was, I'd walk outside and I'd turn around and these big bodyguards were right in back of me. They were so close that if I would stop, they would run into me.
They'd show you the gun to give you the message.
Yeah. That kind of treatment, you know, it's very hard to come up. I tried, but people don't believe. They didn't believe, you know. It's like, oh, that person just wants money. That person, you know, it's a conspiracy, you know. They want to take Mr. Jackson down. So I think I did my best by standing up, even going to court, even though we lost, you know, the Neverland 5. I feel that I can sleep because I tried my best to express, to let people know what I had gone through.
Adrian, did you, in what you went through, did you at any time see Michael Jackson molest Jordan Chandler?
I saw some stuff that I didn't think was appropriate with that, with Mr. Jackson and Jordy.
And yet he's never spoken up either.
Well, I'm sure he's fearful. I really do.
What sort of things did you see with Jordan Chandler?
Them changing their clothes from the water fort and Michael kissing on him. Michael's hands kind of very close to Jordy's crotch. It was terrible to see. I was upstairs in his bedroom.
What, looking down?
Yeah, I was dusting the stairwell.
So to you, your interpretation was it was obvious? I
think it was obvious, yeah. I felt very, I was shocked. I was scared. I can't even explain to you the feeling that I felt.
And what about Brett Barnes, the Australian boy?
You know, with that, I never saw any molestation with Brett. I saw fondling, but Michael was holding on to all the kids, you know, petting their hair or kissing them or petting them or having them sit on his lap.
You see, as you know, now it's all been brought up again because of this documentary. So Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck are now saying that he did unspeakable things to them. Did you witness any of that?
No, with those boys. They were there a lot, but I didn't witness.
Do you believe them?
Yes, I do.
And yet Wade Robson was the star defense witness for Michael Jackson, wasn't he, at the trial?
Yes. But I understand, because when you're dealing with Mr. Jackson and you're dealing with the threats and the way he operated, I kind of don't blame him, because that's a real hard position to be put in, to go against somebody that was, how would you say, at his highest during that time, you know.
Wade Robson was adamant in 2005 that Michael Jackson did nothing to him. Why would you change your story so significantly, voluntarily? He entered that witness box during the trial of his own accord and said everything was perfectly fine. Maybe
it hit him one day. You know what I'm saying? It made him, maybe he realized one day after he was older what that was. You know, Michael had a way about him where he would make you think there was nothing wrong with the way that he was. So he was a manipulator, and those children probably were afraid, especially when he's in the courtroom.
You think it was the strength of his
the
fame?
Way he was, yes, because it was very hard for me to even testify for, what one was it? I think the 2005. I didn't want to see him anymore. I was having panic attacks and anxiety, and that's why I still have it today. Anything to do with that man, I still suffer from that. That trial, that whole trial, I mean, in terms of, it was just incredible media spectacle, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. It was pretty crazy. I wasn't shocked that it was happening again, because I knew it was going to happen again. You just saw that as being a foregone conclusion, knowing what you say you knew about his actions. Yeah. When that trial happened, you always thought a trial sooner or later was going to come along, did you? Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Were you surprised by the outcome? No, I wasn't surprised because I already knew they won't, nobody, the jurors don't, I see it different. They don't like to put celebrities in jail. It's just not the way it is in society. Are you surprised that more children, I mean, if we accept your story that lots of boys were going through that bedroom, are you surprised that more children haven't come out in the last 9 years since he died? Well, everybody's different. You know, I can't say how they're feeling. You know, everybody has their feelings, and maybe some hide things, you know, that things happen bad to people, and maybe they don't want to say it. Maybe they don't want to be labeled as, oh, that boy was molested by Michael Jackson. I mean, you imagine living your life, the rest of your life, and everybody looking at you like that? And the way the world is, it's like, you're a liar, you're a liar. They don't believe the kids that do come up. So why should they come up? You think that's what it is, public exposure? Yeah, I do. I've seen some of the quotes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, so tell me if you've been misquoted by the paper, but you mentioned during your cleaning duties, I'm not sure whether it was related to the bedroom or not, but you mentioned the amount of Vaseline in the house. Yeah. What could you go into detail on that for me? There was a lot of Vaseline at Neverland. Sometimes it was found in the golf carts when Mr. Jackson would take off with the boys. Vaseline? Vaseline. Security would comment, and there was a lot of Vaseline in Michael's bedroom. It was actually all over the ranch, everywhere, every drawer. Is there possibly an innocent explanation for that? I don't think so. Adrian, here's a statement. You will remember this because you were working there at the time, but this was obviously broadcast nationally. I just want to play you this and see what you remember.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
I remember that. I was working there when he was taping that.
1993. Mm-hmm. Don't treat me like a criminal because I'm innocent. Well,
he says that, but yet when they came and they searched him, and I had to get him shorts to wear, from what I understand, his genitals matched the description of what the first little boy said they looked like. He can talk all he wants there, but I know the truth. I was there.
Does that bring back strong memories?
It takes me back to that day, and it makes me mad that I had to be involved in something like that. Why me?
What about these so-called sex tapes that have been alluded to? Did you ever see anything on tape that made your hair stand on end?
No, I did not see anything on tape, but I was told that there were sex tapes and that they were put in trunks of cars.
Who told you that?
I heard it from a projectionist that worked there.
And how did he know there were sex tapes?
He was Mr. Jackson's projectionist. Well, he was a projectionist, and he said that they were there, that he had them there at the, what you call it, it's the projectionist room, that they were there at the theater.
But you never saw them?
I never seen them.
And they've never turned up, if indeed they existed?
He had mentioned that they were taken off the property when the first raid was going on. Something about they were taken off out of there, out of Neverland.
There were something like 70 sheriffs descend on this place, go through every nook and cranny in the ranch, and find nothing that can convince a jury that he's guilty. What does that tell us?
Well, that's not what I heard. When I was there, there was a lot of stuff taken out of his bedroom, from pictures to books, a lot of stuff.
But surely if they found something they could use, the prosecutor would have definitely served it up in court.
But then it didn't go to court because Michael paid it off.
That was with Jordan Chandler.
Yeah. So that raid was, when I was there, was to do with Jordan Chandler.
And the second big one?
The second big one, I was not there.
Yeah, it was 2003 or something.
Yeah, I was not there.
Yeah. But did that surprise you? That so many people can raid someone's home and find essentially nothing, no evidence?
I don't know. I think that he should have fought it if he felt that he was innocent instead of paying Jordy off. I think in today's world, a lot of jurors, they don't like to say that a celebrity is guilty.
Why not?
Because they think they're above everybody else. They look up to them. And they right away think everybody wants money. That's why, celebrities can do no wrong.
What do you think of the mums who allowed, in fact, encouraged their sons to have sleepovers with Michael Jackson?
I think that a lot of the moms didn't think Michael was how Michael was.
But pop star or no pop star?
But I don't think they thought that way because it was the image that Michael put out, the way he was, like he was, he missed his childhood. And, it was a big, how can you say? He would make people feel like sorry for him, like he didn't have a childhood, so I'm enjoying my life now. I'm hanging with kids.
But allowing your child to have a sleepover with a middle-aged man, pop star or no pop star, is really not normal, is it?
I don't think it's normal. I wouldn't allow my son to do that.
You did say once that you would trust Michael Jackson with your own son, Timothy.
That I would trust Michael Jackson with my son?
You said that.
Well, at the beginning, I trusted,
But you said that in a sworn deposition.
I did trust him at the beginning. I didn't know how Michael was.
When did that change?
Later, through the years, I kept watching and seeing. After I got in his bedroom, I started seeing things a little bit different. But I'm a very protective mother. I had a child that died, so my first son, he's alive, but the second one died. So with my first son, I trusted nobody around my son. I was always on guard.
But that's why I ask you that question about the mums.
Yeah.
Putting their sons in that position, whether or not you agree with how it turned out.
Yeah.
From your point of view, would be fascinating because, well, this perspective is fascinating because you were close hand to see the aftermath. And as a mother, I think that's an interesting point of view.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't understand because I would never do that. So that's kind of hard.
Your employment from Neverland was terminated, 94?
July 94, I was never fired from Neverland. I walked out of the job.
You walked out?
I walked out of that job.
But you sued Michael Jackson.
I walked out and I sued him.
For wrongful termination?
Well, that's what they put on there, but there was because we were being harassed and we were being, with the bodyguards that came to Neverland after the allegations of Jordan Chandler. They were harassing everybody there. Nobody knew why they were there. I got a death threat at my home.
So you and 4 others sued Michael Jackson?
Yes.
And you lost?
Yes.
Do you still owe the Jackson estate money?
I probably do, but Michael's dead now,
But the estate maintains the debt, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think after so many years that what are you going to do? I don't have millions of dollars to give to the estate.
How much do you owe?
I don't even know the amount, to be honest with you. I know it's probably a lot. But like all of us, Neverland 5 owed for breach of contract. And I can't remember. It might have been, oh God, it was a lot of money.
You were ordered to pay legal fees initially.
Yeah, for breach of contract, for suing Mr. Jackson.
Which was what, 1.6 million?
It was probably, yeah.
Just to
that.
refresh your memory.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And that has to do with the confidentiality form, like I said, too, because we signed that and we weren't supposed to sue Michael.
So how much of that money do you still owe?
Probably the whole thing.
Aren't you obligated to pay it back?
They did take money out of my, when I was working at a retail store, they were taking money out. What do you call it, a garnishment?
Of your pay?
Yeah, so I don't know. I really don't know. I didn't keep track of that.
The sheriff hasn't come knocking at the door yet?
No.
I've got to keep asking you questions on that, though, because I find it very interesting because that suit, that court case that you lost, there was an independent jury in that case. An independent jury found that in that case you had acted with fraud and malice against Michael Jackson.
Well, what that was about was there was a sketch that I found in the trash.
Yes, but they found that you stole from him.
But I found it in the trash. So that's their opinion as where they can, what they wanted to say. But
that was the legal judgment.
That's what happened with the jurors, but that's not what, you know what I'm saying?
You then on-sold that sketch, the sketch of Elvis that you supposedly found in the trash.
Yeah, we had an attorney in Santa Barbara, and he allowed us to do, an interview. And I figured, well, I found it in the trash. It didn't mean anything to me, which I shouldn't have did that, but I did. And that's kind of where I got slammed with the courts with that.
And the jury said that you then owed Michael Jackson $34,000.
Yeah.
From that theft.
Yeah, but as far as the money that even from the tabloid that we got, that was paid, we never got that money.
How much did you make out of that?
I didn't get anything out of that at all.
Nothing.
I think there was money paid, but it went into a trust with our attorney, and it might have been used like maybe for attorney fees, but I never seen that money.
So did you pay the $34,000 back?
No, I didn't. No.
You haven't paid any of that back either?
No.
Do you still owe that legally?
Probably. I probably do. I mean, I don't know. There's, like I said, they were taking money out of my check. I don't know how much they took. After that, I moved on to another job, and there was no more garnishments. So they didn't come after me with that. So
the thing is, though, in that trial that you and the four others, when you tried to sue, he also had the legal ability to chase punitive damages, but he waived that right for the sake of $1, which I think is a pretty generous act. Do you?
Well, yeah, that was pretty generous. Maybe he felt bad for what he was having the bodyguards do to us as his employees. You
think that was his way of saying sorry?
Maybe.
I guess I'm sort of looking for ways that he may have, there may have been, I don't know, there may have been sort of faults on both sides. I'm just throwing that out there. Can you say hand on heart that your actions have been completely honourable?
I tried to make mine honourable, but I was in a position dealing with him with the threats that were very hard to go through.
You see, in 2005, so we fast-tracked another 8 years from that case of wrongful termination. At Michael Jackson's trial, you were found to have lied under oath. Okay,
now I'm going to explain that. When Michael threatened me and told me if I ever did anything that he didn't like, I was on eggshells for many years. I was scared. And when all this happened, I was afraid for my life. And when I was told, what you don't say, you just don't say it. And you know him. And then I was told they were going to cut my neck and slice my neck and never find my body. And that was hard to deal with. So when I was deposed for Jordan Chandler's deposition, my blood pressure was so high, I didn't want to be involved in that. I was scared of what was going to happen to me and my family and my son.
And so you lied all the way through it.
I was young, and in my head, I was thinking, well, I'll just go around it. I was scared to say anything bad about Michael, Mr. Jackson. Then after that, after I did the deposition, probably 30 days maybe after, Michael called me at my home. I was on the phone with Sandy Doms. She was an office secretary. We were very, very close. And he broke the line and said that he was Gail, my supervisor. So I took the call, and it was Michael. And he asked me, did you get a subpoena? And I said, yeah, I did. Were you deposed? Yeah, I was. What did they ask you? What kind of questions were they asking you about me? I said, well, they asked a lot of questions about you. Do you have the deposition? Yes, I do. I want you to bring it to Neverland. I want to see it. I didn't think I was supposed to be doing that. I was kind of worried about that. But then I thought, well, you better do it, So I did it. And he kept in his room for like a week. And then one day in the afternoon, he came up to me and he said, Adrian, this is for you. And he handed me a little index card that was like stapled on the sides. And it said, thanks for everything. So after he left the room, I opened it, and it was $300. He went to the theater. So I called over there to the theater, and I told him, you know what, I can't take that. No, you take it. That was for covering for him. He paid me $300. I took a picture of the $300 because I had never seen $100 bills that had, like the serial numbers were all like, how do you say it?
Consecutive?
Yeah. And I thought, that's kind of neat. I had never seen that. So I took copies of it. And
he was buying your silence for $300.
Yeah. I ended up going to see Thomas Snedden when I started getting the death threats, and they were telling me they were going to kill me. And I went to the Santa Barbara Sheriff's with Sandy Doms. I had gotten threats at the house, too. And I talked to the sheriffs. I talked to Thomas, and I kind of explained to him what had happened with me. So he granted me immunity. And then I think I ended up suing Mr. Jackson after that.
Well, it is a big spider web, because the trouble is, Adrian, in that story, is that then, as I said, when you sued him, a jury said that you acted with fraud and malice. I mean, that's, that's a severe finding.
Yeah. Well, after we sued and we lost, I don't know her name. She was a juror. And she came into my job where I was working at JCPenney's. And she started crying. And she said, you know what? She says, I'm really, really sorry for what happened to you. She goes, I felt like I knew he was guilty. She knew. And she said, I'm so sorry. And she cried. And she gave me her phone number. But she said, why don't you call me? And she says, I just always wanted to talk to you. And I said, yeah, whatever. I didn't even want to hear from people. I tried to do the right thing, and it didn't work.
But the majority of jurors obviously thought you were doing the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, they probably did.
So you can see how it looks, can't you?
I can see how it looks. I understand that. But I just want them to know why I did what I did. If they were in that situation, what would they do?
You admit to not telling the truth.
Yeah, because he threatened me.
In 1993. And then you were found by a court to be a liar in 2005. How do we know you're telling the truth now?
Well, let's put it this way. I know the truth. I can sleep very good at night. I'm happy I did what I did by standing up and trying to do the right thing.
While Michael Jackson was alive, and the Jackson estate and all the things that went with it, the bodyguards and all that sort of thing, while they were in practice, if you like, I can understand if you were genuinely scared for 5 years. But when he died, 5 years later, why didn't you come back with a vengeance then and shout it from the rooftops in 2010?
Well, because by suing him, I vented there. I said, and yes, I was very fearful, To this day, I still carry that fear in me. But why would I go out and shout that out? I mean, I had said it in court, what had happened about the death, all that was in the court, in the depositions. So we lost, so I let it be what it was.
They also found in that trial that you and your husband had maliciously defrauded your own niece and nephew out of their trust fund.
You know what? That actually had to do with my husband's brother, which had nothing really to do. It was my husband's side of the family.
You can see how it looks like, can't
But
you?
I know what it looks like, but that shouldn't even have been brought into this because that's his family.
But it's all part of the character, I guess, the character examination of you at trial, because that trial was like no other. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Some people called it a circus. But so I'm putting it to you honestly because it goes to what you were saying about Michael Jackson's actions.
Yeah.
Because you can see how this looks.
Yeah, I can see how it looks.
You said Michael Jackson was a good guy when you were working there.
At the beginning?
And then afterwards, the descriptions you use, you're saying he's a pedophile.
Well, that's what I feel.
But you owe the Jackson estate still a lot of money, and you live in a country that makes people rich and famous for having notoriety. So I'm asking you straight, are you lying now in order to make money out of this?
No, I'm not. And as I told you, I sleep well. I'm glad I stood up and did what I could do to try to help, to expose what was going on.
And hand on heart, it's not about selling a story, because even though this man is dead, it's possibly one of the worst accusations you can ever make about somebody, is it not?
It is, but it's the truth. So what's wrong with the truth being known? Maybe that will save other children from people like that.
What do you think about the other staff members? Your former colleagues, other staff members at Neverland, did they turn a blind eye?
I think that some of them did, because some of them I'm still friends with, and some of them were telling me things that they found of naked boys, German books in the train room. That person thought he was doing inappropriate things.
And but still said nothing?
She didn't say nothing. Mm-mm.
If we believe Wade Robson, he maintains that the staff members, well, including you, are complicit in that behaviour by saying nothing.
Well, he has understood I fought, and I said it in deposition, and news people, say, oh, you're a liar, you're this, you're that. So, anybody that comes up, they're going to throw that at you. You're a liar, you're just doing it for money. That's the way it is. That's why people don't come up and say anything. But
further to Wade Robson's point, is Wade Robson right? I mean, were all the staff members
Wade doesn't know. Wade, I can understand what Wade's saying and stuff like that, but I didn't arrange for them to go there. I didn't even know those families. I only met them because that was my job and I was doing my work. But I didn't call up Wade and say, oh, come to Neverland. You can't really blame it all on us. We were there doing our job, as they told us. You're just a maid. Do your job. Stay away from the families. So where does your life go from here? What is your sort of... I'm at a very happy place in my life. As I said, I will always have the anxiety and the panic when I have to deal with anything with Mr. Jackson. That's just part of... It's damaged. I'm damaged from that. And I'll always have that. So it's something I'll have to live with. Well, why have you chosen to relive it now, to speak out now? I chose to speak out now because I'm hoping that maybe children, if this happens to other kids, I hope that they come out. I really do hope they come out and let it be known, just speak it in order to heal yourself, because you carry that with you. I mean, a lot of people end up getting sick from carrying energies like that. I hope people realize you don't have to take abuse from anybody. If Michael Jackson was still alive today, do you think you would be speaking out like this? Yeah, I probably would. If he was alive, I would say it. I would say it to his face, because I was young, and I feel that he was a manipulator. And I feel that anybody that came in contact with him, he destroyed them, and including a lot of those children, kids. I shouldn't say kids. Men that are speaking today. They've been destroyed. And that's not something to be happy about. I feel bad for them.